Good morning. Let me check the microphone. Hello, hello, hello.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's working.
Oh, really?
Victor, hello. Good morning, Jen. Should we? Okay, Jen, working, but it working. I'm not sure it's working. The microphone's working, or I'm not sure the. This is from my phone. This is the question.
Unplug and plug it back and see what happens.
Yeah.
This one.
This is telephone. This is it different? Maybe working.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I wish we could actually tell. So, there's just one little thing to do.
Yeah, working. Because your voice is bigger than me
Oh, okay.
now. Maybe not.
Oh.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Good morning, everybody. Hi, good morning, Max. Good morning, Albert.
Sorry. Just one little thing. Yes, good. That's all I need. Here.
Okay,
Okay.
have a seat.
Let me put this away. No.
I want to know the microphone working or not.
Yes. All these things we should do beforehand. Okay, sort of. You know, I'm missing one very important thing. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back. It's the music side, otherwise I can't show anybody anything.
Okay, this microphone working. Yeah. Good morning.
Okay.
Oh, that's important.
Sorry, everyone. I hope this is working, but I did need to bring our berg so I can actually show people what I'm talking about. Anyway, well, is everything okay? Is the microphone actually working? Okay. I'm not. So, Good morning, good day, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me here. And today, I must say, this morning for me was particularly depressing. I think it's not simply that in the United States the coronavirus is hemorrhaging out of control and there's such incredible widespread is it okay? No? Oh yeah, sorry. I'm getting yeah. Irresponsibility, widespread irresponsibility among people who actually should be directly involved in trying to ameliorate this situation, which is really horrible. I'll say first, though, a couple of things that I will actually deal with next week. I think that is as we in the midst of the holidays right now. The world is beginning to celebrate the Hanukkah. There will be the Christmas holiday coming up, and next week I will speak about a remarkable woman, Laura Maria Caterina Bassi. She lived from 1711 to 1778. She was a scholar, she was a physicist. She was depicted as Minerva, the goddess of wisdom. And she was the second woman in the world to earn a degree of Doctor of Philosophy. The first one was Elena Cornaro Piscopia, who had received her doctorate in 1678. I will talk about her as well. And the reason why I will be talking about this, and I'm just giving everyone kind of prelude to what will be a bit of next week's live stream, is that we find now, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so depressed, that higher education, as we have known it, is now under attack. And it's very, very disturbing. And in fact, if certain changes which are sort of in the works take place, then I should say the great innovation of Alban Berg, for instance, perhaps would now be impossible. I'll explain this more next week. I will also highlight a wonderful article by Pablo Picasso, which I just read. And right now, I will just restate one line from it, which is particularly poignant. He wrote, "Art is a lie that makes us realize truth, at least the truth that is given us to understand." It's a fascinatingly wonderful article, and this will be for next week. But now what do I want to say? First of all, there's an open letter from 250 scientists from 30 countries in the world, calling on politicians, calling on policymakers to, as they wrote, engage more with the growing risk of societal disruption and collapse due to damage to the climate and environment. And they were arguing that only then might communities and nations begin to prepare and so reduce its likelihood, speed and severity and harm to the most vulnerable and to nature. As they wrote, the state of the planet is broken. Humanity is waging war on nature. This is suicidal. This will also be more for next week, I think. And there's more terrible news that's just within the United States, of course. There's crazy news, and the director of the U.S. CDC, that Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, supposedly ordered staff from their agency to delete an email sent by a political appointee of our president to actually hide what was being done, basically. Demanding to alter a scientific report on the coronavirus health risks to children. The how do you say that? Politicization? I can't. I'm so upset I can't even say, even pronounce words in English. It seems like of healthcare, of science that's happening now is absolutely unconscionable. And the most awful thing is that, of course, it does not at all influence, except in the most negative way, the progress of what is actually happening in reality. And in the United States, this is the last few days, each day has had over 3,000 fatalities. Really huge surge of the virus. And it seems like the only end in sight is the fact that we do have vaccines which apparently do work, despite also fake news that's coming out about these vaccines, about certain dangers which, of course, have not been documented at all. And the problem, though, in the United States, of course, is that the present administration, again, refused to reserve an adequate amount of the vaccine. So the United States will be behind the rest of the world in actually tackling COVID-19. And here we do, very unfortunately, I would say, not less unfortunately, it's tragically, have to face, I fear, several more months of a very dangerous situation. Now, the biggest news just now has to do with the suit which the Attorney General of Texas is bringing against 4 states to try to actually annul their voter tabulations and the results of the votes, and which, and basically in order to guarantee that Trump will, in fact, rather than lose the election, will be reelected. This suit that they're bringing on, that this is it's just crazy. This is it's based on basically a small, just about a tweet of an economist, is Charles Siketi, I believe that's how you pronounce it, who is a big supporter of the Trump campaign. And what he wrote is that had the results, the purported results in 2020, in this one, been the same as the number of votes that Hillary Clinton received in 2016, victory would have been impossible. Of course, this is not 2016. This is not Hillary Clinton. This is nothing. There's nothing to do with that. As Biden received more than 15 million more votes than actually Hillary did, and the number of votes in general in this election was tremendously large. However, many of those votes were mail-in votes, and that made perfect sense because of the pandemic. And what he's saying is that these mail-in votes should be annulled, basically. They should be thought of as being illegal. For what reason? Of course, it's impossible to actually fathom. What I want to do now, though, is read from the blog of a wonderful historian, professor of history at Boston College, Heather Cox Richardson, who can explain a lot of what is happening much better than I can. So I just wanted to pull that up from her little blog today, December 10th. Now, what has happened is that half of the Republicans in the House of Representatives have signed on to the Texas lawsuit asking the Supreme Court to overturn the results of the 2020 election and install Trump rather than actually count the votes which were tabulated and elect who was legitimately elected, Joe Biden, into the White House. Now, Biden, of course, won the election by more than 7 million votes, and in this archaic electoral college that the U.S. System requires, Biden actually received 306 votes to Trump's 232. Now, of course, the present administration has filed numerous challenges to this and has lost 55 of the 56 court cases which they have brought against the election's outcome. Okay, now, the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, is asking that Texas was actually harmed by the voting procedures in Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. It's totally mad. Essentially, Paxton is arguing that mail-in voting in those states, which Democrats used more extensively than Republicans did after Trump insisted it was insecure, stepped on Texans' rights. That's impossible to actually fathom. Now, first, the Supreme Court of the United States has to actually agree that Texas is allowed to sue, and then if they do agree, and then hopefully they will not, that's impossible to believe that they will, but we don't know, that perhaps they will, a majority of the justices could actually toss out the electoral votes of those 4 states and, in effect, elect Trump to a second term. Now, not only has half of the Republicans in the House joined this suit, and 17 states or more have joined this suit, but Trump himself has on it. I think it's not surprising that Paxton, the Attorney General, himself has been under indictment for bribery, abuse of office, etc., etc. So he is perhaps actually just maneuvering to try to receive a pardon from our present president, regardless of the outcome of this comical suit. But it is really very, very dangerous in any case, and very depressing. Now, the suit I need to get this off my chest, and I think it's very important that we understand that this is the beginning of a possible coup in the United States. We have to treat it with that kind of severity, that kind of seriousness, that it's not simply a comedy, it's not simply something that we can make fun of, but it is something which is tremendously, tremendously dangerous and deeply, deeply depressing. Of course, the 4 states which are the target of the suit have actually formulated a countersuit, so that we can hopefully it will actually turn out all right. And very soon we do have the Electoral College voting, and after that, if things are not resolved in a terrible way before that, things will be settled. But the divisiveness in the country, the terrible what should I even say? This terrible belief, which has nothing to do with the reality, will remain and will, I'm sure, poison the atmosphere in the United States for a long time to come. This is very, very, very terrible. Okay, okay, that's all I probably need to say right now. And now we will turn to our art, to music, and to the remarkable little work of Alban Berg. I just have to say that as musicians, we must be active in today's world, and we must be proactive in insisting on not only the value of culture, but insisting on the importance, the necessity of the community, worldwide community. That said, I think before I continue, perhaps we need a little bit of levity. And for that, I will come to our this is here. Oh, I didn't put this together. Wish it could happen. What is this? This is here. This is here. No, that's wrong. This is the one that I need. Now this is not what I thought I wanted to see. Hold it. Well, we'd see the beginning of this in any case. This is mountain gorillas. These are our cousins, I would say, in the world today. Let's try to do this. And they do something which is quite wonderful. When they are eating, they love to sing. Yeah, hold it. I need to actually turn this on. Let's hope this works.
But the other spies are recording something truly groundbreaking. They've caught our gorillas singing as they eat. It's a chorus of appreciation. The first time this phenomenon has ever been recorded among wild mountain gorillas. They not only sing for their supper, consuming 20 kilos.
Okay, I will stop at that point, as it becomes a little more risque, everything perhaps, for this. But I think this is very wonderful. There are a few other YouTube videos of gorillas singing while they eat, singing with kind of quite joyful, joyful. You see, today I woke up and was reading, and I've just become so upset that I can't even speak. Joyful appreciation of the food they're eating. This is just wonderful. Okay, I had enough of this, I think. And now we move to something else, which in its own way is very, very joyful, very, very fascinating, and wonderful. And as clarinetists, we are incredibly lucky that Berg happened to write these 4 pieces for clarinet and piano, and not for some other instrument. Okay. So with that in mind, I will go over to the piano. Let's see, I have more things ready. And what I want to do today, I will go to the first movement. Last week, I sort of described in broad terms what he is doing here, how he is concerned, how he's exploring, I should say, the fundamental parameters of music and the fundamental notions of what constitutes a piece of music. Okay. Now I want to look in detail at this first piece, and hopefully I will get through it enough that I will be able to go on to the second piece, and perhaps even more, but that's maybe a little bit wishful thinking. Okay. So, not only, I should say, first of all, does Berg look at the form as a form of life, I would say, because we have something from, in a way, birth. In this case, we take from one node to completion, where all the parameters have been pushed to their limit, I would say. Do we have something here? Yeah. But he also has taken expression, musical expression, he's taken it out of the context of melody in a certain way. So you do have melody in this, but what you do actually have is gesture. And it's the gesture which takes place in sound, in intervals, and I should say in intervals and in dynamics and in rhythm too, that creates musical intensity, musical drama. So he's in a certain way refined in these pieces, and we'll see this in the first one, the sense of gesture. Now, I'll start by maybe playing on the clarinet if I can. Let me see. This is a little bit cold, but it's probably not so bad. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Now, can people see me all right? Yeah, I'm a little bit boxed in here. But we start in this that way, and it's kind of a light gesture. Some people have said that this perhaps is a reference to Till Eulenspiegel. Who knows about that? But 1 second. We have a little too close, yeah? Okay, I'll move back also. If I can actually do that here, yeah, and then I move to the piano. So, we have and he has a particular, this is sort of a melody, but you have a particular sense of interval from here and then what he does after, going to here, expands that. So we have T, ah. Which ends up being D major, but that's not so important at the moment. And what he's done together with that, though, is he's changed tempo and changed the mood from something which is lighthearted, as he says, light, and then he transforms things. And I should show you here, if I can. Can I show this here? Is it showable? See if this is. So you see how he even writes here, he has this little slur or tie, we can say, through the rest, and this poco ritornando to here. Okay? And there's our second, and here's schwerer. This, in other words, more serious. Is that okay? Okay. So I go back, and I'm going to have to go back and forth probably a bit with this. So what he has done here is he takes one gesture, which is light, so that from here, and then that way. So as he stretches, the character of the gesture changes, and it transforms itself in the rest. I should actually mention that I look at this piece as a performer, not simply as someone who is analyzing this, because music is something that has to live, and it lives in performance, and to look at it and find how to make it live requires a kind of analysis, but this analysis is kind of, it's almost a sort of kind of empathy, that you look into the music and you feel what is happening here. But the actual symbols on the page give you information, and that's what you can feel. So this is through that rest here. Things are transformed to the beginning of the piece. So it's almost like kind of someone just walking along. Ah ha 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 ha. Oh, now I understand. This way. You know, these are these gestures. Now let's look more carefully at what he is doing with this, and how it's, in a way, remarkably systematic. So we start here, and I'm just going to keep this so that I have so many notes for this, and I just want to make sure that I don't make a mistake. Okay, now we start though, we have here, we have a fourth, and then we have from here, minor sixth, we have here whole step, minor third, major third. He's going through all the intervals this way. You see. So, what he does is he goes from something larger to something smaller, and that gesture creates something which is more lighthearted, and then he starts to expand again. And that then begins the transformation to something which has different character, more serious character, as the intervals expand. So major third, perfect fourth, fifth, minor sixth again, that way. So things go back and forth this way in tremendously systematic way. Then, what do we have in the piano? We have this minor second, augmented fourth, tritone, and in the left hand, minor seventh, major sixth. Yeah. So, with all of this, he ends up going through all the intervals this way, that way, sort of completing this kind of all interval set of expression. It's fascinating. And okay, then, of course, he keeps expanding these intervals. So let me just right. And what should I say now? As he keeps expanding in the piano, start from this. And then he sort of expanded, then contracted again, and then expands. Expanding. Goes from again the seventh to the octave. This way. And we come now to measure six. This way. And here the clarinet goes down farther this way as the piano expands even more to, and then here, and then the piano comes down sorry, I played it wrong. As the clarinet moves up higher, I can play that on the clarinet perhaps. That way, oops, I injured my piano a little bit here. I just have no room in this place to do that. I need better. This is not meant for this kind of enterprise. Now let's look at this even more. As he slows down the tempo from measure 5 to measure 6, here, I'll show you here. he slows down the tempo here. So ritardando ganz langsamer, and then ritardando even far. Here, what he is doing at the same time, though, is speeding up his rhythm. And you can see that especially in the clarinet part, as he moves from the triplet to the 16th, to the sixes, to the tremolo, 32nd notes, to the flutter tongue, which is in a way the fastest here. So, what is happening is, as the music is getting slower, the actual gesture is getting faster. This way. It's very, very interesting. Again, this kind of expansion, which is happening in almost in sort of contrary sense, this way. And then the range extends to there, this way, so that the piano goes down to the E flat, and the clarinet up to the D, and then to the E flat, and then the piano, and again the D there, and the clarinet goes down also to the D. This is in measure 8. This happens as that. And what else is happening here? We see the clarinet then contract from there. So we go from the largest space contracting down, so that and then contracts by the octave also, as things. This is also interesting, while it accelerate and then slow down here, and I'll show this to you in a minute. And Berg is at the same time going up. He goes from the E flat to the D, and then he goes to the E flat, and then he should go from the F to the E, or for us the G to the F sharp here. At the same time, the middle voice does the opposite and starts from the C sharp from here as we go, then going down. So there's a C sharp going down, then 1, and then to here. That's right. We end on that tritone this way. So this kind of compression that he's doing as things move. Now there is, you can see this very clearly here. Now let me show you this part here. So we have this here, up the octave, going all the way down, the largest. Then he contracts this here, and then finally here. Okay, now this is, you see how this goes here, E, F, F sharp or concert E, but instead of the G that should be here, he has a rest. You wonder, that's interesting, because he is so systematic. So he just decided because it made somehow more musical sense to actually have a rest instead of the F? No. Because notice how you have the accelerando and then this ritardando happening. So what has happened here is that the ritardando has made the F actually has made it into some note that's actually later in time than what is before. You see, and you will notice here what happens is these are eighth notes, then these are triplets, they get faster. So in other words, they become more compressed. And then we have this here, and what happens, this should go down the octave, and this should also go down the octave, perhaps, there, to the G, or concert F, should be here. That's a little bit, maybe too much, perhaps. But what he does actually is we find it here. Can you see? People should mention if this is at all clear. You see. So this is he is dealing with a kind of, you can say, a universe which is expanding and contracting in a way. So in this case, we have this contracting here, but time moving in sort of this sort of way. So finally, what should be ahead is behind. Very, very interesting that you say. So after this, and not this way, but and then he moves back. Sorry, as he goes back to this G. That's again that way. Very, 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 very interesting as it works. Now let's look at it a little more this way. I mentioned last week how one of the things that happens at the end is that he actually accomplishes, I should say, or completes all 12 notes by the end of the piece. And I showed you how that works and how you can see that. But something else is also happening here. And we see that if we look at the clarinet here, we go to the D. We start on this D, which is together with the piano. First the piano has this D here, and then the clarinet comes in this way. And what happens here is we see the clarinet then going up to the D. He goes up to first to the E flat, then E natural, then to the F. What's that? Yeah, I will show you. You see, so from here, as we start here, and here is the D, that way. There we go, this way. Half step higher, half step higher. Then, of course, the half step higher, and then half step higher, until we get to G. That way. Okay, can you see that? Now, the same thing, the piano then goes from this D, and we go up, back up the half step 2, goes down, see, to C sharp, to B, this way. So we see how things move this way here, okay, and then of course what completes, you have 3 more notes, those 3, I'm sorry, B flat here, and we see these in this, which again fill out the 12 notes. Here, I'll show this to you here. So we have that D, of course, from there. Okay, and then, yeah, that's better. D. Then of course we go down to C, to C sharp, C natural, B natural. I mean, he's a wonderful composer, so he doesn't do it in a simple way, but it's exactly what is happening at that point. You see, that's and then here he fills out this, but it's a little more interesting than that, because already here, you see, he has his B flat. So there is the sense that this moves backwards that way. But, and this is fascinating, you wonder about the second piece here. How does that end, but with the B flat? You see. So that is, this movement, in fact, can be looked at as a continuation of the motion which begins here. And we see that from here, going that way. And that he sort of gradually comes together with that. This is, it's really quite remarkable in the way he has taken, in what I should say is in a way what is the essence of perhaps nature, which has to do with exhalation, inhalation, going like this kind of pulsating sort of thing, and codified it in sound this way. And as I mentioned, how it goes slower and slower and slower there. also it goes slower and slower to this point, sehr langsam. Here. And remember the G in the clarinet. It's our dum. That ends up being this here. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's the G. Then we have this, perhaps we can say, but he goes down from there, that G, to the F sharp here, to the end, the B flat here, and then the D, which is the pivotal point here. And we see this from this E, kind of resolution from the E, is going there. I can be more down because we have it here. If we see, we have this. This way, and that D. It finally ends up here, and then that D stays in the next movement. Wow, where am I going? Here, and then and he makes up the second movement. So what I've just shown actually is how he does connect these two in a way which we don't notice the connection except that it is connected somehow. And we can hear it. You see. Now I have to make a slight detour, because when I spoke about Stravinsky in the second piece, and I mentioned this last time, and the first piece too, and the last piece, how Stravinsky took traditional form and in a way reinterpreted the form to create something which was new. What Berg is doing here is something even more basic, because he's taking the basic motion of notes, not even form, although there is the sense of form here, because despite the fact that Schoenberg mentioned that these pieces are too episodic, we do have what am I doing? Yeah, that's right. And then we have this, and then we have here at the end going there. So there is a sense of recapitulation motivic which he gives, and again, this is a kind of recapitulation which is not academic, but it's a kind of return which is completely natural in a way, because of the way the music has constricted and pulled apart again. But there still is recapitulation. Now the second movement, of course, moves back to the beginning at the end. So we start with this. then the end ends. So the second movement, in a certain sense, has a circular, and it's not linear, right? But it moves back onto itself. This, okay. And now I think I will look at the second movement. We're doing well with time. I'm sort of rushing through things a bit. I would probably, in deference to Berg, who is so systematic in this amazing way, I should be more systematic, but I'm not going to be. So we move to the second movement, sehr langsam, and one thing that strikes us in the very beginning is that we do have this here. So this major third is very crucial, of course, in this. But the melody, where comprises all the notes which do not occur in the major third, which is D and F sharp. So he is in a way showing how you separate gestures. And it's not only that the notes are different, but the intervals are. That's, we have minor seventh, minor second, going back, major second, fourth, minor second, minor third. So it's the intervals which are not in that essential major third. But he keeps emphasizing the third this way, and then moves down here that way. In what is this kind of grounding of this movement in these major thirds which go, sorry, that way. And we look at these this way, and we see that what he is doing here, we have this as the basic here, with this here, so this augmented, and then we have this here, and he gives you sharp there, and then we have this here going you see, and then finally we have here also there we see. Now what that does, though, is with these augmented chords, that we have trichords, we can say, he again completes all 12 notes with that. So we have a kind of circular pattern which goes back onto itself there. And as he completes finally that, he has completed the 12 note cycle once again in this piece. So this is another sense of completion, another thing. But at the same time, it's completion which moves back to the opening. So it implies a kind of circle where time can sort of start again. It's really quite fascinating and quite brilliant in its way. Now, there's another point here, which I mentioned how this. Sorry. Is here, but what you have in the right hand is this kind of expansion here, but also an echo of what we have in the, and then we have in the piano that way, continuing through this whole place as the clarinet plays, so that the piano part in the right hand of the piano actually mirrors or shadows, I should say, that's much better, what the clarinet is doing. That's also very interesting little bit of compositional technique, I should say. Now, another thing that this movement does is it explores limits. So it has explored in a way, limit of time with this kind of circular sort of thing, but it's explored limits of perception, we can say. And let me show you this here. Here, yeah, okay. If I show you, so we have here this, and then we have this here. But you have this, it's ecotone, it's langsamer, and then the rest. But in the meantime, again, he has this kind of tie, I would say. I think this we can say it's a tie. Now notice that this is 3/8 notes. Here we have 1, 2, 3, with this in the middle. Now what is he doing in this? Yeah. He is getting so soft. To this way. So in other words, the note stays, but goes beyond the possibility of audibility, I would say. So and then moves on. And then here too, he does the opposite. He starts to grow in this. And as it gets louder. Oh, yes, I lost my pen. That's here. See, it's right. Today is not right because I'm just too frustrated with what's happening in the world. Okay, so, you see how we Zeitlassen here, and then as he gets louder, he gets slower. This way. Da, dum, da. And then we finally have this part, which ends in a very dramatic way. And I will go over this in just right now. But you see, so then he has rhythm that's sort of and dynamics connected, so that as you get louder, you get heavier, you get slower this way. And then, of course, and remember how these notes are the two dangling notes in a certain way from the first movement, going to the G, which is the essential sort of note of the clarinet. That way. And at the same time, he says, a tempo nicht eilen. In other words, do not rush. But the clarinet figure is a kind of rushing figure. But and on the contrary, the piano figure, see, actually I should just mention, you see how the clarinet, again, the intervallic content is so interesting. There's finally, we have our major third. And that. So that ends up doing that, in fact, together with in the piano. But finally we have the major third, but then half step, and then once again major third, whole step, and then here minor third, whole step, half step, half step, half step, and then again, and then I'm sorry, I did something wrong. Sorry, I do this again because I'm saying so. That's right. Then it's this. Yeah, sorry. Whole step, but then half steps to the G. And then finally, here from there, and this goes. And we end. Now, what's interesting about this is how the piano part goes this way. And then tries to expand. perhaps a little homage to Schumann in Papillon. That way. Schumann goes the opposite way. He goes up that way. He's that. But this is. That's right. And then finally, and this was this little homage to his teacher Schoenberg. That's it. From the Pierrot Lunaire, Schoenberg wrote just a little while before Berg wrote this piece, and it's a wonderful eighth movement, Nacht, which of course is made up of that figure. That figure, probably coming out of Schoenberg, became what I call a 20th century icon. So that this, you see in so many pieces, and it has taken on a meaning, or it took on a meaning, which is in a way universally applicable. It's a kind of mysterious meaning that you have. And for clarinets, we even have that in the Poulenc Sonata. You can find it very easily. So, I have a feeling that I should stop now, actually, even though it's a bit incomplete. But this, at least I hope that I got this sense of expansion and contraction that is essential to this piece. Even a melody like this. I should mention a little bit more, a tiny bit more, just looking at that melody, because he has taken I would say, the essential elements of classical and, in a way, romantic expression, and put them into this melody itself. So we have first this the minor seventh, that gesture going up, which then we have the appoggiatura. And then we have kind of climbing music. But then again, where composers would take things and put things inside this way. I'm trying to remember. And I don't remember right now. There's a great example. Well, there are many examples in Brahms of this, but in any case, next week I will actually compare that. But taking this here, which he does, of course, without the feeling of resolution. Yeah. But not exactly, because after that he does again. but then he goes this way. So he does move to that C. That, which in a certain way will resolve this music that way. And okay, I think that I probably said enough about this. Although I can just point out one more detail in this. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to, because you can see, and everything I am sure in this piece is completely on purpose. So that's God, you see, I'm not articulate today at all. Well, let me explain this way. Because we have that C, and then he goes from here, and then he has the F. So it's almost as if, because we have this, and this goes from here. That way. And then, of course, what does he do? He resolves the end of the piece to B flat. So we, in fact, have a at the end. You see? And that's inside all of this. So we find that that resolution, which should happen, doesn't happen, even though it is implied in the base of the piece. This way. And it doesn't happen because the music goes back to the beginning. And so this piece does not end so it doesn't have yeah. I wish that were Berg telling me you are completely wrong. But anyway, I'm glad the ones who stayed, I'm glad you put up with my babbling, and I promise that next week I'll try to be more coherent. In any case, be well, everyone, and let's hope that the Electoral College gives us good news. Okay. Take care.